and like, you know, if you have an interaction. The only difference is that you've all got your pants on, which is... that was unscripted. Thanks, Wendy. My name is Peter Goadsby. I'm the chair of the Migraine Trust International Symposium Scientific Committee, and more importantly, very proudly, I'm the medical trustee of the Migraine Trust. You'll hear a bit more about the Migraine Trust in a few minutes. I just want to say that as a physician, it's just fantastic to be involved in a patient-driven operation that makes a difference and recognises the crucial nexus between what's happening in the clinic and what's happening in research that brings together something that's useful for patients. That's what the meeting is about. Before I go any further, I'm going to click. I'm just clicking the next, and nothing happened. So I'll just have the next slide, because the clicker's dead. So, excellent. This is a scientific program committee. One of the great things about chairing that I've learnt over the years is that the more you get people involved, the less you have to do. And if you get a really great committee like this committee, you have to do more or less nothing. And so I'd like to thank my colleagues listed here in alphabetical order, please note, from across the world who put together this program for you. What you'll see is a focus on cutting-edge things. You'll see a focus on cutting-edge people. The number of people who've got hair loss like me are absolutely minimal, speaking from the podium, and you should be happy. You should be happy about that. The other thing which we've been very happy about, and the clicker's still not working, so we'll just have the next slide, is the teaching course committee, because we need the next slide. So if we just advance it, that'll be great. To the next slide. When I was in Italy once, I learned how to say next slide when the clicker broke down, and I've learned it in German, and I've actually learned it in Spanish, but I'm not going to bastardise those languages and insult anyone today. I'm going to stay with English because it seems like the way forward. So, teaching course committee. Let me say, teaching is really important, from the primary care to paediatrics to science, and David Koenig's primary care teaching course. Wonderful. Crucial for us to be able to teach. And I know that those teaching courses were well attended, and I hope everyone enjoyed them, because teaching is a crucial part of what we do. Another thing I want to say straight away, clicker's working, excellent, is I want to thank the sponsors. You know, you're upfront about this. We can't run this meeting without sponsors, and I'm particularly grateful to our sponsors here, AbbVie, Lilly, Lundbeck, Pfizer, Novartis and Teva, who've really helped us with their contribution. They've helped the Trust individually over the last couple of years, and wonderful efforts to try and advance the science of headache as we see, particularly these new medicines come forward. Particularly, let me call out Pfizer, who've actually just given money for training fellowships. If we don't train people, there's no tomorrow. Because I've been saying at the Trust for 20 odd years, if you want to get rid of me out of the room, you're going to have to train a whole lot of more people to get rid of me out of the room. And they seem to have got the message. And maybe it's a message I need to listen to about getting out of the room. So with that, and with my sincere welcome to people, I mean, it's 4 years since we're all together. I do want to just reflect for a moment that there are people probably who aren't here who can't be here because of COVID. And you probably have friends, and you might have had relatives, patients who succumbed. And as physicians and those who's interested in medicine and people, it's time just to remark on the fact that we've lost some good people and some bad things have happened in the last couple of years. And while I'm pleased to be here, that was a difficult time. So and I hope you enjoy the interaction that we have in that way. What we're going to do, I'm going to introduce Elena Ruiz de la Torre. She told me just a minute ago I've been practicing 20 years to be able to pronounce her name. she kindly said the pronunciation was okay, but I think that was just because she's a very generous person who's CEO of the European Migraine and Headache Alliance. The only thing I would ask you to do in the next little period is to be patient for the next little period until Elena speaks. So let's just be patient. Next slide. Everyone was being patient, including the slide guys. Sorry.
Thank you for being so patient. And you can help us to improve the situation. The 8 years is the result of a survey that EMHA conducted in the last year. With people with migraine, there were 3,900 responders. And the average that came out is that they need 8 years to get a good diagnosis. Not the only message that we have for you here today. For you here, I have another message, and we are going to put a video now, which I want to dedicate to all those who have devoted your life to treat us, to take care of us, to migraine and to the sufferers of migraine. So this is for you all, and let's have the video. Thank you. Next slide.
Unfortunately, migraine is an invisible disease in the eyes of society and in the eyes of science. That is why, to talk about it, it is usually represented like this, with a pale red color. Luckily, more things happen in our brain, in particular one, invisible as well, which we would like you to pay attention to. It is something that usually goes unnoticed among consultations, tests and prescriptions. Something that is rarely studied, but has a huge potential and can produce outstanding results. As with migraine, we have tried to represent it graphically, and we use green to represent hope. Thus, we can imagine the hope of improving Lucia's life, 15 years old. Joseph, 43. Kyle, 27. Or Joanne, 76. People who aspire not to having to wait those 8 years on average, which is the time it usually takes for receiving a good diagnosis and the most appropriate treatment. You, doctors, can give hope to all of them. Only you can reduce heal so much time of suffering and give hope back to millions of people advocating for better access to care at your healthcare system and hospitals. This is why today we want to thank you infinitely for always being there.
Thanks, Alan. As a physician, it's actually quite nice to think that people are grateful. I mean, you know it as physicians. It's really nice when patients have something pleasant to say. It is really cool. So thank you. I'd like to introduce Michelle Walder, who's the chair of the Migraine Trust. An accomplished person in many respects. Someone described her to me once as having a portfolio career. I think that's right, a range of accomplishments. There are days when you need a chairperson, and I'll tell you, there are some days when you really, really need a chairperson, and today is one of them, and I'm so very pleased that Michelle is our chairperson. She's a dynamic leader with great ideas, who I really feel safe when I'm bouncing things off. Michelle, well.
And hopefully you can hear me at the back. As Peter says, I'm Michelle Walder. I chair the Migraine Trust, which is a world-leading, patient-led migraine charity. And it gives me particular pleasure to welcome you all here today for the first in-person meeting of the migraine and headache community for over 3 years, 4 years when we were all last together. And it's great to see so many faces and to welcome you online as well. I'd like to start with a thank you. It seems to be the theme, doesn't it, so far? To thank each of you and all of you for the passion and the commitment that you bring to your work. You change people's lives on a daily basis. You improve them on a daily basis. And that is priceless and inspiring to the rest of us. So thank you. And thank you for coming. It's an exciting time for migraine treatment at the moment, exemplified by Professor Goadsby's groundbreaking research, and that gives us two opportunities. It means that people with migraine and those who support them have better access to treatment and better understanding. But it also does something for us as a trust, because it raises the awareness of the impact of migraine. And we know that as awareness grows, change follows. And that's what we're all here to try and achieve. So it gives us a way to demand from healthcare providers and healthcare systems prioritisation. It allows us to engage with governments at a policy level. It allows us to improve our information and support and take this understanding and this insight into schools, into workplaces. I know you're going to spend the next few days learning together, inspiring one another, enjoying looking towards the future at the cutting edge of science, which is what this meeting is. And as you do so, running alongside this is Migraine Awareness Week in the UK. And this year we are choosing to focus on migraine and children and young people, which is around 1.2 million people here, and they are largely unfocused upon, both systemically but also at times not necessarily considered as a priority, and it takes them even longer to get diagnoses. And so we've chosen to focus on them, and we'd like you to help raise awareness of those as you wander around, and that campaign if you possibly can. But it is an absolute honour for you to be here and to host you here, and welcome.